Welcome back to my channel. My name is OJ. I firstly would like to apologize as this episode review is very, very late. It is like a week, almost 2 weeks now late. And I had life just all over the shop. I got super busy and I sort of fell behind. I promise this is a one-time thing. I pray that you will not hold it against me, but I thank you so much for joining. So in this episode, we will be reviewing the Real Housewives of Atlanta season number 17, episode number 11. Now, before we get into the actual review, I just wanted to say shout out to Porsha, especially at the very, very end of this episode when she basically gave Dennis the business and stood on business and basically held her boundaries. Because I felt like Dennis was out there playing in her face. He was out there on some BS. I don't know why he would rock up there with the ring and do everything he did or to say everything he said to her, which we'll get into at the very end of this review. But I just wanted to say shout out to Porsha. You're doing a big one for me. She is really growing on me, and shit, I'm happy about it. I don't mind. I'm happy about it. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So, taking it from the very top, at the start, we see Shamea catch up with Cynthia at Cynthia's beautiful Lake Bailey place. Now, Lake Bailey, amazing. I love that house. Like, if I were to pick somewhere to live on this show, either Porsha or Lake Bailey, Porsha's house or Lake Bailey, one of those two. But back to the review. So when Cynthia and Shamea had caught up, they then started talking about the party and everything that had happened, and they talked about the guest list. And Cynthia then queried Shamea about the guest list and why the guest list was the way the guest list was, and I guess in a way why people were invited super late. I put it down to that was because of production. We know this production is in charge of all these things. Production is in charge of all the events, whether it be something outside or something inside or something intimate like this. So the way I thought about it was Shamea had a list of who she was going to invite. Well and fair, that's her home. Production probably wanted to film, and they probably wanted certain people there. Or production probably pick up the scene unless certain people were there. And that's just me from a viewer. I'm not in any sort of production team other than my own channel. So there's that. So Cynthia asked Shamea about, why the guest list was a guest list. Shamea tells her her reason. She mentions why Dennis was invited was because Dennis and her husband Gerald have a relationship and they do play date with the kids and all that, which is fair, I guess. But at the same time, I still would have invited Porsha. I mean, me personally, I feel like they are both existing on the same show. They're sort of staying out of each other's way. I don't think anything bad would have really happened. Just seeing how, especially from Portia's side, how she had been, conducting herself throughout, the ending or the dissolving of this relationship. But that's just me. Also, when they asked about Drew, or why Drew wasn't invited, when Cynthia had asked Shamea, and Shamea mentioned that Drew wasn't invited basically because Drew kept bringing up Porsha, the way it came across to me was her saying, Drew is sticking her nose into her and Portia's business, or she's doing Portia's bidding. But at the same time, literally in the last episode where she was with K. Michelle, it came across like Shamea was doing Drew's bidding. In my opinion, is it not the same thing? In my opinion, pot meet the kettle, because she is, accusing someone of potentially doing someone else's bidding, but she's doing the exact same. But you know what? Moving on. It is what it is. You know what? Shamea also mentioned that if Simon was there, Simon would be at the party. And I'm just like, well, firstly, Simon's deported, so it's not like Simon would be in anyone's party in the United States of America. Number two, interesting because her reasoning for inviting Dennis was because of the relationship that Dennis and Gerald have and the play dates. But then for her to just invite Simon, it was coming off petty, which makes me think, was her inviting Dennis a petty thing? Was her potentially inviting Simon a petty thing as well? Or was it just because she genuinely, her reasons were her reasons, which is fine. Which is fine. This is why we're here to watch and break them down. Break the episode down, not break them down. It just came across really messy to me. I was like, interesting. So Shamea also mentions that after the last season 16 reunion, they had like a back and forth exchange. She talked, well, not talked, she motioned about how that went. And then she had said that her and Porsha had some exchanges in regards to her marriage after the reunion. Now, I'm not sure if it's Shamea's marriage. I'm going to assume it's about Shamea's marriage. I guess, I don't know what they were talking about. She never alluded or gave details, which is fair. Which is fair. We'll just leave it at that. Also, at the very end, when Shamea asked Cynthia for a hug, I don't know. I just felt like this whole conversation between the two of them, it came across very tense. It almost seems like maybe at a certain point, Shamea had gotten up and Shamea had left, and then Shamea had been told by production potentially to come back, because the way she was like asking for a hug at the end, it almost seemed like Cynthia probably was reluctant. I don't know. It was just interesting. Something I just noticed. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. But we now move on to Pinky catching up with K Michelle, and they go to lunch. And before K Michelle walks in, Pinky's on the phone, and she's on the phone because $9,000 had been deducted from her bank account, and the deduction was something to do with her business. So there's that. I guess that they were sorting it out. They talk about the bankruptcy again in the scene. And then Pinky still goes on about, this whole trope of being a strong woman. And I understand. I'm not a woman, but I understand, you want to handle your business. You want to be a strong woman. That's how her and her husband had met, them being independent. But at the same time, I'm just like, well, what is the point when you, on one hand, say you want to be strong, and then on the other hand, you mention that you have a husband who has all this money, and he wants to support you, but you're not allowing him. I don't know. I am not fully abreast on why the reasons are, and to each his own, I guess. But if I was in Pinky's shoe, I would take the money, so I'm not filing for bankruptcy. But hey, whatever, her business. While they were talking, K Michelle, I guess, briefly mentions the lunch slash dinner thing that she had with Shamea and Drew. After Drew sang the national anthem, and obviously K Michelle throws shade. She literally says here, there is more to life than a national anthem performance, and hopefully there'll be more. It's just like, okay, calm down, K Michelle, calm down. Drew is very talented. Drew, I'm sure, is booking stages or booking gigs or booking, camera time with TV shows that she's filming. She's an actress. There's no need to be shady. I don't understand why she's being shady with Drew over what. Because imagine if Drew would have turned around and said the same thing to K Michelle, then it would have turned into the whole, everyone's against me in Atlanta. It's like, no, seek help. It's just, and then K Michelle also adds at the end, after saying, life is more than a national anthem. She says, if Drew does right by people, and I was just like, well, who did Drew do wrong by? Other than Ralph, because it takes two to make marriage work, and it takes two to make a marriage break down. So, other than that, what's to go with that? And then Pinky chimes in and says, "Yeah, on the cruise ship," saying like, she can get gigs on the cruise ship. You know what? There is nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm sure people have made beautiful money and nice performances, and that has probably worked for them on the cruise ship. Work is work. So, in this day and age, we all need a job. So, or multiple. And then K Michelle also tells Pinky about how after that sit down with Shamea and Drew, Shamea and Pinky had gone out to lunch. And while they were out to lunch, sorry, not out to lunch, they had gone out to the club. And while they were at the club, Shamea's mother also come. And then while they were at the club, they, I guess, had like a DNM of some sort. Shamea's mother probably prayed over her, I'm assuming, in the club. And then Shamea confides and she tells K Michelle that nobody in Atlanta doesn't want me to be your friend. So who in Atlanta? Because then it takes me back to when they were in Dallas and when they were talking about there's this plot to take her down. So does it mean that Shamea knew about the plot and she was the one that was telling her, which is what Angela was saying. So I take back my word, Miss Angela. You were probably right. Probably. We don't know yet, but you were probably right. Anyway, so they were talking about it, and then it was also interesting because Kay says in her confessional, nobody wants to hear about Candy Coated. We know that Shamea is friends with Candy. Candy is friends with Rashida on Love and Hip Hop. Love and Hip Hop was a show that K Michelle was on, and when they both were on the same show, they had lots of drama, lots of tension. There was one scene where they had this fight argument in, I believe, Rashida's apartment, and someone threw a candle at someone, and K Michelle was singing about Rashida and Kirk and his nose ring. So Interesting. I'm not saying Candy's involved. I'm just saying it's very, very interesting. So after that, we now cut to Porsha and Mike. And in this scene, we start off by seeing Porsha with her personal chef. And she basically was like, she was hoping that she would have had enough time to come over earlier or be there while he was there early. So she could pretend that she was cooking girl. But at the same time, if I had a personal chef, I wouldn't be out here doing no freaking cooking. Are you kidding me? I would not be doing cooking. Hmm. Let me have a personal chef. You all will see. You all will see me. Anyway, then Mike walks in. I'm just like, oh, here comes a fake boyfriend, but it is what it is. Food looks amazing. I love it. The food looks so amazing. So Portia says she's wifey material, and she also talks about how what is that? When she was talking to Lauren suggested that she should date multiple people, and Portia is the type to like just date one person and then lock in with one person. And I feel her in that because I'm the same as well. And now I'm in the space where I probably need to do that. Just date multiple people on the surface, see where things are. Just keep it very casual, not anything sexual. I don't know if you can say it on here, but not anything to that level. But I agree. I should probably do that, and I'll be taking your advice, Lauren. If things go wrong, I'm coming for you. Anyway, Portia also says that she's wifey material. I was like, girl, you and me both. We are on the same page. So they talk about love languages. And apparently Portia's love language is communication. Well, she says her love language is communication. And Mike makes a face. I thought that was funny, but moving on. So Mike isn't happy with Porsha because when they did like a little throwback clip and it was showing Porsha at the Bravo Fan Fest from 2025, I'm going to assume, which is when this was filmed. And Portia had said that right now she's dating two people, a male and a woman. That is fine. But I guess he seemed upset about the fact that she was publicly saying she was dating multiple people, or that she was the fact that she was dating another person, which I understand, but I also understand Portia's point of view. She has told them both that she's seeing other people as well. She's told them both and made it very clear. So, hey, I didn't see anything wrong with it. Good on you, Portia. Go on with it. She's clearly with Sway now, but it is what it is. They also talk about how he wants kids, and she's already had a kid, and she doesn't want to have more, and that is fine. Stick to your guns, or whatever they say. Whatever. I'm having a slow moment like Portia here. And I also wrote down, good job, Portia. Like, stick to what you believe and, put yourself first and put what you want to do for your life first. I agree. So they show Kelli moving. Kelli is moving out of her house, her townhouse, and she was talking about how her and her daughter Chloe were stalked by their neighbor. I don't know to what extent, but that is crazy. I hope that this person is reported. I hope that this person is in jail as well. And I hope that this person has some sort of, I don't know, infringement or something against them where she can't approach Kelli and them because this is crazy. They also show her moving into Shamea's townhouse, which I thought was so sweet of Shamea. And big ups to Shamea for doing this because, Kelli is down. She's down and out. Like, well, not down, not out, but she's down. And, for her to, go out of her way to, give a sister a hand up, I respect her for that. I really respect her for that. So I thought it was really sweet. So moving on. We next move on to Angela, her catching up with her brother Lawrence in a park. Obviously, the subject of Angela's mother's passing comes up, which is still a very sore thing. She talks about how the grief is like has its ebbs and flows, like up and down. Like some days she feels like she's trotting along well, nothing's hit her until just out of the blue, just out of the blue, she is reminded of her mother and she's sad. And I haven't lost a parent. It's inevitable. It's something that'll happen, but my heart goes out to her because had it been me, you all need to put me in a padded cell. just just because. Just because. But they talk about, how I guess things are going for the both of them and how that's progressing along and, the sort of support that they have, sort of support that they need and how they can be there for each other, which I think is very important, especially when you're grieving for something like this. They also bring up Angela's daughter, Shamari, and Lawrence, her brother, asks her how Shamari's wife, I can't even remember the name, how her wife is supporting her because we know that Shamari is married. And also with the marriage thing, because they got married in secret or they eloped or whatever, the family doesn't know about it. and it's coming across like there must be like a rift between the siblings, like Shamari and her siblings, because Angela mentions that it is up to Shamari to explain to them that she is married and whatever else she needs to explain to them, which they have their reasons. So it is what it is. You know what? God bless everyone. So we then go over to Phaedra and Kelli, and I wrote down here, ooh, Phaedra Winner Case is back. It was so funny. It was nice that Phaedra basically is sort of doing like a pro bono thing, giving this to her like as a friend, like doing her a favor, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I think that, things like this are nice. They show like the business side, they show like, what really speaks to Phaedra, or what speaks to them personally. And I also wish that these shows would show more of their business side. Like, I want to see like, CEO Porsha. I want to see, just all that. Always seeing is them sitting down having dinner. Always seeing is them going on trips, which is fun. But at the same time, I want to see what they're doing, like how they make their money. But yeah, they also talk about how Kelli is going through like a thing with her ex-husband Mark, where he is barring her from filming with her kids on the show, and that's how she makes her money. That's how she makes money for them. Phaedra understands that because clearly she was married to Apollo, who was a bum, and we saw how that all went and how the debauchery of a marriage and how just everything ended. Like, so she understands, and I'm glad that Kelli has someone like that there in her corner, really, and who's willing to fight for her. And I think that they either have won this case or it's looking pretty good for Kelli. So shout out to Phaedra, like she knows what she's doing. Also, the funny thing, Phaedra, in her confessional, she says, Google me. I won numerous awards for my litigation skills. So I think she was basically in response to when Cynthia in season number 7, when she said win a case. Phaedra, she was talking about a case, not your skills. Two different things, in my opinion. But I could be acting dense here. So that's what it is. It was funny. And then we now go to Pinky and her sexy husband, Derek. Yes, Derek is fine. Meet up with a pastor and her husband. So I think like some sort of like counseling, like a therapy thing. So Pinky talks about buying a company back in early 2025. She says that she was in a place of depression because he wasn't there for me. Was he not there for you, Pinky? Or did you not want him to be there for you? Because I feel like there's a difference. And I'm only saying that because from previous episodes, I think maybe in episode 3 or 4, when Pinky was talking about, potentially filing for bankruptcy and Derek was offering to bail her out. And she was like, I'm in iron about it. Anyway, Derek, he chimes in. So he basically cuts her off and he says, not to cut you off, but I think I came from a place of if I got it, if I have it, we have it. And I understand, like you're in a marriage, you're in a partnership. Why not lean on your partner? What is the point of having someone who has money or someone who has the means and the resources to be of service or of support you in a way, and you choose not to, and then you're here in this place. God bless. I don't know. Do what you want to do. And then Pinky talks about how they met. And then she mentions that, them being independent entrepreneurs, I guess it's something that's big to her, which is great. Like, it is an accomplishment. There is nothing wrong with, saying that, hey, I accomplished this, I accomplished that. But at the same time, I feel like once you're in a committed relationship, marriage, there's a way that, you go about accepting support. There's a way that everyone can be supportive of each other and everyone should allow each other to show up. That's just what I think. And then the pastor chimes in and says that that's pride, which I agree. And she's no longer a solo project, which I agree as well. Like, Pinky, you do not have to soldier this alone. You do not have to be a strong woman alone. You can still be a strong woman and allow someone else to help you. Like, I feel like there's strength in that. I feel like there's strength in showing someone that, hey, I need a little bit of help, like just turning here. Like, I know how to turn, but help me. Help me, please. So I feel you on that, Miss Pastor. And shit, where are we? I lost where I was. So Pinky says that her decision is not to get her decision to not get help isn't a strain. Really, really, Pinky. Me personally, for those that don't know, okay. So if I'm in a relationship and if my husband is bankrupt or he needs whatever money, I'm helping him. And I would expect the same. So, and if he doesn't want help from me, then I feel like I would feel away. I'm not sure if it's like a controlling thing, But I would feel away because I'm like, well, I'm right here. Why would you suffer alone? Why wouldn't you let me help you? It is what it is. We'll just leave the married folks to figure this out. So you do you. And then towards the end, they start laughing and they're joking. And then Pinky asks if the husband of the, I guess Derek asks if he gets a man cave, and Pinky asks if the husband of the pastor has a man cave. My thing is this: I don't know about this whole man cave thing. You know, me, obviously, the person I'll be marrying is a man, so the house is the whole freaking cave for us. But anyway, my thing is this: I wrote down here, I don't know about a man cave, so the whole house isn't your house. You're like speaking from the perspective of like, what does that mean? I know what a man cave is, but I just don't understand the need or the want for a man cave. Like, can't you just relax in your own like whole entire house? Why do you still need your separate space? If you have your separate space, where does the wife go? Where does the mother of the kids go? Because she is most often stuck with the kids all day long. She's most often stuck with all the chores, all the labor. Where does she get to go? Does she even get time to relax? I don't know. I'm just saying it from the perspective of someone that's watched or witnessed a lot of, heterosexual relationships and how things are conducted in that business. Because it is a business. Marriage is a business. And no one's going to tell me otherwise. But anyway, so they all arrive. We now go to Drew's house. They all arrive at Drew's house. Cynthia's already there, and Angela just arrives after everyone. The spread and the layout of the food, amazing, beautiful, decorations, amazing. Everyone looked amazing. So while they're sitting down to eat and they started eating, Phaedra jokes and says that she invites K Michelle. I would have died if K Michelle really showed up. But I was thinking, oh, hell no. And then they talk about Pinky's show and just what's going on with that. And then Angela says that Natari, the girl who Drew knows, will be playing Pinky will be casted in Pinky's show as Pinky. Pinky says that Natari doesn't look like Pinky. The only person who looks like Pinky is Mr. Clean. Speaking of Mr. Clean, I also feel like that guy that Porsha is hanging out with, Mike, he looks like Mr. Clean to me. That's another Mr. Clean as well. Maybe he can play Pinky because they look alike. When I say that, I'm not talking about how a black woman looks like a man. I'm not doing that. So don't get into the comment section and roast me. I'm specifically talking about the shaved head look, but maybe I'm wrong for saying that, so I take that back. I also wrote down that this group is fun. Angela, Porsha, Phaedra, Drew. They're all fun. Like, I love this crew. Cynthia, I would sit with them and chill and have fun, I know. And then I guess they talked about something, and I wrote down here, it's giving Porsha. I think they must have talked about Drew must have spoken about the sit down with Shamea and K Michelle. And then that's why Porsha was saying Porsha. And I was just like, yeah, it's giving Porsha, because what do they have going on other than to talk about Porsha? I don't know. And then Cynthia mentions her meetup with Shamea, and Porsha says she's not going to speak on a private text thread. I agree. Moving on. Drew tells them about her lunch with Shamea and K Michelle, which went left. And then while they were sitting down, the chef brings a rainbow cake, and then Drew slides it across the table. She's like, this is in honor of Porsha. And then Porsha turns around and she was like, well, you can have the other half. See, this is the kind of fun shade, the light shade that we like. No one was offended. Everyone didn't take it too far. Everyone laughed about it. Everyone moved on. It was fun. Also, I found it funny how like they were talking and like stomping on the floor to talk to Ralph, like in Morse code or whatever. That to me was hilarious. They killed me with that. So it's a day of Pinky's 80s theme roller skater party, and to me it was giving like Beyonce's video Blow. For those that don't know, it's from Beyonce's 2013 album titled Beyonce, self-titled album. And there's a video in there for the song Blow. Colorful. It looks literally like how the scene was laid out. I was like, holy. So Pinky and Derek, it shows all of them arrive. Pinky and Derek arrive first, then Shamea and Kelli arrive. They all look amazing. Pinky arrives with a wig on. Porsha arrives and she says she's channeling Whitney Houston in the I Want to Dance with Somebody music video. Cute. Phaedra and Drew arrive. They mention, obviously tonight is the night of Angela's mom's passing, like their 1 year anniversary, I believe. So she probably had like a memorial or something for her earlier that day. So while they're standing around talking, they cut to this guy, and not they cut to it, this guy walks into the scene and he says hi. So his name's Terry, and they showed in a previous scene, or like a flashback or whatever, they showed him meeting Drew or something, and someone said, Drew needs to date people, and then he shows up. And apparently, This is the man that Nene was posting about, saying, Drew's dating her leftovers or what have you, which is weird. I don't know why Nene's worried about what a single man's doing. And also, I don't think that they were together like that, but it is what it is. And I don't feel like Drew was showing any interest in him. All people said was, better get your man. And she just grins and looks away. Like, I don't know how that is showing Drew being thirsty to claim someone else's ex. Like, anyway. So Angela shows up, and then Porsha gives Angela a gift, which is a frame of her mother, which I think is so, so sweet and so, so beautiful. It also shows Pinky also brought in a bouquet of flowers, and I think Drew or someone else, Shamea sent, like they all brought her stuff. Drew brought her flowers, Shamea sent her flowers. Like I thought it was beautiful and very sweet of all of them to show up for her in her time of need. Like my freaking phone ran out of storage. Anyway, as much as I was saying before, um, we watch these shows for all the drama, shade, whatever, but I love that, especially with Atlanta, when it comes to real things like this, like losing of a parent or a divorce, or in the case of Kelli with the assistance of Shamea and Phaedra, like they genuinely show up and they show up for each other. And I love the sisterhood. Like, hats off to all the girls. Like they did their big one, and I'm so happy for them. And I'm so happy that Angela has them, around her and rallying her and lifting her up. So there's that. Yeah, the skating was so much fun. Watching K Michelle and Phaedra was so funny. I would be the same as well. Porsha, she did real good on the thing, and especially when she was on, like someone was just getting by with someone, and then at the very end when they showed them all dancing in the car park, that was so sweet. Sweet, they all looked so good. I loved it. I thought this was a fun scene. This was probably the first time that they all hung out and nothing went left. Now we get to the final scene, which was showing Dennis and Porsha catching up, and then Dennis brings over the ring, which I don't know why Dennis chooses to bring over the ring. So then they then have a sit down and they're talking, and I just also wanted to say I noticed that what Porsha was wearing in the last scene, like a few scenes before, it showed Porsha was wearing the same stuff, and when Phaedra came and then picked her up, and they went to Drew's place for dinner. So I'm assuming that this scene with Dennis must have happened either before. I'm going to say it happened before, because she was wearing like her house slippers and it looked like she was just getting ready to go somewhere. And then obviously Dennis then shows up with the ring, acting stupid, which is go away, Dennis. Anyway, I also found it funny how Dennis is trying to coach Porsha on Porsha's dating life and on how she's conducting herself and whether she's allowing people to meet Pilar super early. And I'm just like, Dennis, like I get that that's your child, but at the same time, I don't think you or anyone, especially you, are not in the position to coach her on her dating life when you had your chance with her and you blew it. And it seems like you're having a lot of regret, and it seems like you're trying to find and weasel your way back into her life, which you already lost that. You literally lost it when you cheated on her, not once, but twice. You proposed to her twice, which we saw on the show, and then that was it. So she can do whatever she wants. She doesn't have to listen to you. And then Porsha, Dennis says that he basically waited for Porsha's marriage to end with Simon, which I thought is wild and which I thought is crazy. And I guess he mentioned that he supported them, like, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like, you messed up, which is why she was in the position she was. Not in the position to go and marry someone else's husband, but she was available to do whatever she wanted to do. And it was because of you and your cheating ways. Dennis says that he was intentional, and Porsha says she was intentional. She was the intentional one. She says, "I gave you the baby. I said, let's go look at the ring." She also said, "I asked you probably." And when she said that, it's like you can see the pain and the realization in her face. You can see that it's like everything about that relationship or how things transpired and or why things had moved forward was showing that it was because of her in the very moment. And you could just see like the pain and the sadness and the realization all hit her all at one time. And I will say that, for me, this is the Porsha that I relate to, Though we're not the same age, I still always, for some reason, I went back and watched season 5, 6 when she had first joined. And it showed her, going from being married to Cordell to rebuilding again. She was 31, I'm 31 now. And then seeing her in this position now and talking about, being intentional, like I felt that I had been in a situation like that before. I felt that I was the one that was being intentional with everything. And I felt that once I talked about it now, it was showing me that once if I never did all that, nothing would have progressed, nothing would have happened. And that's just my perspective. And I felt like that really spoke to me, and her pain, it really touched me. Like it genuinely did touch me. And yeah, I really don't intend to make this about me, but we're here to talk about how we relate to things like this. It's not just entertainment, it crosses those borders at the same time. Um, like I said, Dennis had his chance and he blew it. He blew it. And when Dennis said, "I got it done," while telling her he brought the ring back, like that pissed me off because it's just like, you're not getting it. You're not getting that. She's talking about how intentional she was about this relationship. All you're focusing on is you got it done, as if the ring or your intention to marry her just supersedes all your actions, all your cheating, all whatever you put her through, especially when she was pregnant with your child. Especially when she was pregnant with your child, which is such, God, a crazy time in a woman's life, a crazy time where, anything can happen, like medical wise, but you chose to do what you did, and here you are trying to bag. Um, So it's just like, I was just like, so you did it because she asked you. That's what it's sounding like, because he said, but I got it done, after she said that she was intentional about everything, looking at the ring, giving the baby, probably even suggesting getting like engaged and all that. It's just like, so did you do it because she asked you? Because it's coming across like that. Like it's literally coming across like that. Anyway, and then he gives her the ring, and then it's just like, why? I don't understand why he wants to give her the ring again. Like to do what? That ring doesn't mean anything. Like it represents pain, it represents trauma, it represents a broken thing that she had wanted. And she says, in a perfect world, she'd love to be back with Dennis. But she said that there's a side to her that she does not like, and she doesn't want to be arguing in front of Pilar. And I think that's such a beautiful grown up thing to do. Like, I really admire the strength that it takes for someone to choose that, because I know that there's a lot of people that would rather have, the father of the kid in the home versus they be happy. And I think it's such a stand up thing that she chose to do. And you have Dennis over here, just whatever he was, like, he was just annoying me. I was so irritated. And I said, Portia's funny. I wrote it down. She says, you're going to come sit over here, cross your tight pants, and hand me that ring with your ankle huggers. Ankle huggers are an ick. Like, those pants with ankle huggers are an ick. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah. Do you tell him, Portia? My thing is, what what does Dennis want? Like, why did he come crawling back? Like, did his last relationship not work? Are things not looking up for him, and now he wants to come back to Portia? Is he going to change? Well, probably not, because he's done that twice now. So it is what it is at this point. He suggests them doing therapy, and Portia's like, "What? Like, we're fine as co-parents. Therapy to do what? Like, what are we fixing? We are not getting back together." And I'm glad Portia says that. Portia then walks Dennis out, and she breaks down and she's in tears and says that it's his timing is off, and this is like such a mess up thing to do, which I agree. So she then confronts production about whether they knew if he came with the ring or not. I guess they say they didn't, but I'm pretty sure they did. Let's be honest, like these scenes, not though they're not scripted, they know what's going to be talked about, what's going to happen, and they chose. I think I'm sure it was the producer of Portia's friend comes out and comforts her, and it was sad. It was so sad to me. Like hugs for Portia. She has really, really grown so much as a person, and when she mentioned that she was thinking of Dennis' mental health, and she wish he'd do the same, that the mental load I see with a lot of women, like, a lot of women, just from seeing all my, as a gay man, I'm naturally closer to women than men. And like to see all my women friends, my girlfriends just have, you know, it just seems like they are the ones that are always carrying all the mental load. They're the ones that are always thinking of everyone other than themselves. And they are always like putting themselves last. And it is so sad and so horrible and terrible at the same time. And I just wanted to encourage any of my viewers, especially if you're a woman, please, 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 for the love of God, put yourself first. Put yourself first. We don't care what that man does. If he's a good man, amazing, but still put yourself first, because trying to carry the mental load for you, yourself, in a relationship, plus someone else, and then you end on kids, that's just crazy. But I say all that to say this is the end of my review. I thank you all so much for watching. Once again, please forgive me for my lateness. Also, please forgive me if I sound like a little bit. I am a little bit tired from I feel like I'm getting sick, as well as my 12-hour plane ride. So I thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll have episode 12 soon, like in the next 2 days.